Welcome back to the Lovin Dubai show. Today we're joined by Kat and Yvonne, the duo behind the brand new podcast, You Have Got This. With a combined experience of 28 years living and working in Dubai, they are all too familiar with mental health challenges that we face. So in a city that prioritizes lifestyle and happiness, their podcast dives deep into the very real struggles we're facing, especially that comes with being an expat in Dubai. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having us. Thank you.
Congratulations on the launch. I think it launched on Mental Health Day.
Yes.
Very needed, I must say. So what inspired you guys to launch it?
You can go ahead, Bob.
Well, I mean, both Kat and I, as you said, we've lived in Dubai for 28 years. And, we've worked in Dubai for that amount of time. And we've also understood, the challenges of living abroad as an expat, moving from your home country, coming out here and, the social isolation that can happen, trying to make new friends, working, in a new environment, whether it's corporate or somewhere else, being a stay-at-home mom, trying to, also get your kids into school, trying to make friends, with your kids' friends' parents, all that together can, cause a few stressful challenges. Yeah. And it's unique, to what we experience back home because we have that stepping stone of, knowing your friends from high school, you have the family support, but coming out to a new country where the culture is different can be a little bit overwhelming for an expat. So, yeah, that's why we started and we're super excited about it. And I think, one of the main reasons is because we wanted expats to have the opportunity to share their stories and their narratives amongst.
They're so interesting.
Yes,
and diverse,
and everyone has a different expat story. And it's interesting to hear how you moved abroad, and it's interesting to also hear if any expats have been dealing with any struggles. How did you do it? How did you manage? What did you do? Who did you seek help?
It's so true. And thank you for shining a light on it because these are all very real daily challenges that we face. Congratulations on the look and feel of the show, by the way.
Yeah.
The background looks amazing. That's an LED or is that real?
It's LED. Yeah. It's very fancy. I'm like, wow, it's in Dubai.
It looks amazing. And I really enjoyed the topic of the second episode, which just dropped, understanding the fine line between worry and anxiety because the word anxiety is thrown around so much. So I guess the question on that episode is, at what point, anyone watching today, do you seek professional help? How do you know it's anxiety versus a little bit of worry?
Thank you. It's a really important question to be able to answer. So basically, when we see anxiety interfering with your daily functioning, okay, maybe a week we're not so worried, but if it's happening for like a 2-week period, we would strongly encourage you to go and seek supports. That might be, first protocol might even be to a GP, okay? They're more and more becoming, more well-trained in terms of mental health support, and then they might be able to direct you or give you a recommendation to a mental health professional. But I wouldn't let it go longer than 2 weeks because even if it's, and we were trying to also talk about destigmatizing mental health supports because a lot of people misunderstand it and they think it's this big, scary, serious situation when really, okay, I'm a therapist, I'm a person-centered therapist. It's very, person-centered, meaning we have a conversation and we discuss, what are going to be some strategies that you can try and implement in your own life. So I really, part of what we're very passionate about is normalizing it a little bit that, I describe myself as an anxious person. It's not something that you can flick the switch and now I'm not anxious. It's not that. It's a dial. You turn it down a little bit with the strategies that you can learn in therapy or through a really good self-help book. But this is what I'd encourage people to do.
And before we dive a little bit deeper, I'd love to just talk on like mental health and the language we use around it.
Yeah.
Can I say I'm an anxious person, although I've never spoken to a doctor? And for example, if my partner is feeling something, can I label that as because I've Googled something online, like at what point do you have any tips on, labeling things with your family and friends and partner or how you describe yourself?
I think, exactly I mean, you don't want to for example, you don't want to feel anxious and then go and look online on social media and hear a couple things and then all of a sudden, oh, I'm an anxious person because, you know, they've mentioned a few tick boxes that you experience. I think first and foremost, if you feel anxious, like Kat said, there are certain therapists and, you know, professionals that can help with a diagnosis. But I think what we're trying to do as, you know, a portal is to remove the stigma, and instead of you sitting there at home going, I'm anxious, I don't know what to do, you know, turning to some of the stories as expats on You've Got This and saying, hey, they were also anxious. This is how they did it. Oh, these are some tools that Kat and Yvonne have come up with that could help me with this. Actually, that hasn't helped. I'm going to have to seek, you know, professional help.
But I think we need to sort of also destigmatize the word anxiety.
Yeah.
Like, okay, depression, anxiety, sadness, grief, joy, these are all emotions that are available for us to feel, and they're all welcome if we let them be welcome. When we start to sort of label ourselves, I am anxious, sometimes you're not anxious. Sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're sad, like all are okay. And when we're talking about like clinical levels, like, you know, this does require like a mental health professional to go through a lot of, you know, a very thorough process about providing a diagnosis. So with our loved ones, it's better to just say, oh, you're having worry thoughts or you're having some anxious thoughts. What can we do? We can breathe, we can reground, we can talk about, we can validate your feelings. And these are the everyday strategies that would benefit anyone, really.
I love the strategies. I love the tools. And I always find that, you know, something could be bubbling up in your head, and then when you speak to someone who has an expert advice, and then you get the tools and strategies to implement them, they're always helpful. So if we could deep dive into some of the topics that you guys discuss, such as loneliness. You know, we're in a city packed with people, so many events going on all the time, but I'm sitting in my apartment, I'm single, I'm a 28-year-old woman and I haven't been able to make friends. I see this on Facebook groups all the time.
I do. I see it all the time. And that's another reason why we started this podcast and, you know, this community as well, because it is it is a situation that affects us all. Like, what do you do? But I think the important thing is to recognize it and get out there. Get out there and expose yourself to, there's so many things in Dubai. Dubai is an amazing, amazing place to meet new people and to experience new hobbies. Have a think about some of the things that, you know, you enjoyed doing in the past and get out there and do it. Hiking, you know, there's so many sporting groups out there. There's so much to do in Dubai. I mean, completely different to Australia. How would you say it is in the UK? Is there so much out there? I mean, most places close. By what time?
8 p.m.
Yeah, you're in bed. But here it's just such a bustling cosmopolitan city. And I don't think I've been in the country for 18 years. I've never met anyone that's been, you know, not wanting to talk, not wanting to have a conversation. So I think we're very friendly as expats as well.
You know, what are some of the qualities that, you know, because expat culture, we're different, you know, where we're taking a big step out of our comfort zone. What other qualities are true to expats? Well, they're outgoing in a lot of ways to make that big move. And I think we've all been there. So approaching someone is not as awkward as it is maybe in Sydney, and, you know, people will want to connect with you.
Because we have a common goal. We all run with a common goal as expats. We came out here for possibilities and opportunities. And I think that sometimes we do forget that we've done that. And that is just confidence. Those are skills that you have. Confidence, resilience. What else? You know, there's an endless list. And I think sometimes, and I think we cover this on a podcast, sometimes as expats, we need to step back and go, yeah, it's okay to sometimes feel stress. It's okay to feel anxious, but also taking a step back and going, look at the amazing thing that I did. I moved abroad. And, you know, there's lots of different situations, whether you've moved with a partner or you had your kids here, or you moved with your kids, or you came for an amazing job. These are unique, amazing stories that are very, very unique to Dubai. And I think we should talk about it a lot more. And I think talking about sometimes the struggles that people have, because it's very unique, you know. So, yeah.
I agree. We're surrounded by like-minded people that are all willing to embrace new friendships, hopefully.
Yeah.
Although you mentioned struggles, you touched on struggles, and there's this old school of thought that it might say that, you know, mental health could be exaggerated. And I sometimes feel that, you know, we're all sitting in such a privileged position here in Dubai with what's going on in the world around us. So do you find that some people are nearly afraid to vocalize their mental health, afraid to say they're feeling anxious, or afraid to say this is going on because of what's going on around them? And what would you say to people who are struggling, but maybe they can't validate their struggles because they see what's happening in the world around them?
Yeah, and I think that is such a valid point. And really, everyone's experience is their experience, and we cannot, devalue or invalidate someone's personal experience. Of course, we're sympathetic and empathetic to what is happening, but that doesn't necessarily take away from a 16-year-old's, struggles with anxiety or, friendship issues or whatever it is. And I think the more empathetic and the more compassionate we can be, just generally in terms of people's mental health, okay, the greater service we're doing to the world in general, right? Like, I feel even we've progressed so far, but it's still this idea that if you're physically unwell, you would call in sick and you wouldn't go to work, and people would understand that. But sometimes we see, a mental illness as very serious, and they won't just take the day off to deal with that mental health challenge. So I think the more empathy, compassion, education we can have around it, the normalizing of it, the more people that can say, I've struggled with this and this is how I managed it. It's just sort of hopefully contagious, the fact that we can have those supportive conversations that do everyone justice.
I agree. And what are your thoughts on self-diagnosis without seeking a professional?
Well, no, absolutely not. Do not, there is so much on social media at the moment that,
it's a slippery slope.
It's a slippery slope, and a lot of it is misinformation. Go to a licensed professional, someone that is experienced in diagnosing, and that's where.
And just to clear that up, so in Dubai, there's a regulating body that ensures the mental health professionals are licensed and are credible, and they're the people that you need to have those diagnosis conversations with. And maybe it's a conversation, it doesn't lead to a diagnosis. That's also possible and common, I would say.
And I would say, in my own personal experience, that when you speak to a professional, you get great, as we said earlier, tools and strategies back, which is what I want to delve into right now, because people who are experiencing some of the topics that you talk about, it's the tools that will help them out of it. So for example, if we're talking about people experiencing burnout at different stages in their career, what, in your professional opinion, does burnout look like, and what would you recommend to someone who feels like they've hit kind of a wall at work?
Burnout and stress are like very, very closely knit, but they're different. Okay, so when we're struggling with stress at work, we tend to go into like anxious mode, and we tend to try and do more. Burnout is a quality where you literally have nothing left to give. You are empty. The cup is depleted. There is, you're not able to function at work, and this is it's an important distinction that needs to be made, because often work can lead to stress. Sometimes it's good stress, sometimes not so much. But when we slip into the burnout category, you really need to put your hand up and ask for help. I used to, I was a teacher, I was a school counsellor, and I used to think, burnout, it's not going to happen to me. Oh, was I wrong? My gosh, it just, for me, and I don't know if this has happened to other people, but it was like one day I was fully functioning and the next day I was burnt out. I would have imagined, I just didn't notice the decline. There would have been one, but it was like full empty, and this is where the idea of relentless self-care, this is a term we use to describe the type of self-care that's needed, psychological self-care, to not let you get to the point where you're completely empty and have nothing left to give. So
absolutely, you have to. It's like going to the gym. We go to the gym, to stay healthy. We eat nutritious food to fuel our bodies. There has to be an element of brain gym as well, where you are practicing self-care, mindfulness, doing grounding activities, and most importantly, talking about it. Go speak to your, at the end of the day, what do we do if we feel burnout? Talk to your partner, talk to your friends, talk to your boss. Be open about it. A lot of companies in Dubai have got a lot of good mental health initiatives that you can reach out to that maybe you didn't know about. And so it's so important. And I think that that's exactly what gets rid of the stigma as well, those open, deep conversations.
Do you have advice on maybe low-cost ways that people can? Conversations are free, but are there any low-cost support systems in the city that people can look towards?
So I think this is also partly why we want to put this platform together. You know, on our website, we've made sure that we can put, you know, really reputable resources that people can access for free, obviously, and that's a good starting point. Okay, because again, we're not just Google doctoring it. We're really like looking at you know, evidence-based strategies, worksheets, journaling is obviously free, you know, so things that deepen your own self-awareness about your inner world are really valuable and free a lot of the time, okay? Conversations, and I would add with a trusted mentor, I would add with a trusted boss, you know, you need to feel safe that the conversation is confidential if it needs to be. So these types of conversations can happen in the workplace, but there's also online groups.
Yeah, there is. And I think, you know what, a really simple strategy, and we've talked about this so many times, because I think at the end of the day, it's that think, feel, behave. You know, we go and have 1 million thoughts. What is it? There's
70,000 thoughts.
Yeah, you know, every minute.
A day. Women,
I swear it's every minute. I have 70,000 thoughts a minute, you know, and especially when you're burnt out, especially when you're not feeling your best. And I think the first thing to do is to think about some of the thoughts that you're having and put them down in a journal and validate them. Are they true? Where's the evidence? And if they're true, what can I do about it? What's the plan? What's the plan of attack? And I think that as a takeaway, you know, for anyone can be quite important.
It is. When we have a
sit
bit of
in our heads a lot.
Yeah, we talk a lot about thoughts because we just automatically default to believing everything that goes through our mind. But really, we need a bit of distance from those thoughts because they're not all helpful and they're not, you know, necessarily needing action. They're not serious. They're just thoughts. You know, so we talk a lot on the podcast about this because even when we're working with young people and making them aware that just because you've thought it doesn't mean it's real life.
Exactly.
Like,
just because you think it doesn't mean it's true. And I think one of the other important thing is to also start becoming a bit of a cheerleader for yourself.
Self-talk.
You know, that inner critic, we all have that inner critic. As soon as we start cheerleading for ourselves, like how are we taught from, you know, a young age? Your parents say, don't think like that, think positively. And then we forget.
Feel sad.
Don't feel
cry.
Yeah. What are some positive things about that's, you know, about this situation? And I think we need to get back to basics as well, and start doing a little bit of that, putting evidence to some of our negative thoughts.
Love that. Some amazing takeaways there from the co-hosts of You've Got This podcast. Just to very briefly give another rundown as to what the podcast is, because you mentioned you're going to have people coming on the show as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So really we wanted this to be a platform for, you know, to celebrate expat stories, to talk about firsthand, you know, when you relocated, obviously you would have encountered challenges. How did you overcome them? And share those success stories. Hopefully they're success stories. Because this normalizes things for people. You know, when you can hear, oh, I thought it was just me feeling that. You know, I think that a lot as a mum, I'm like, oh, you also feel that? Oh, wow. That it makes it okay. You know, so much of it is hidden and not talked about. But if we can bring it out into the open more and, you know, a strategy from a real person that has also lived that is so valuable for all of us. Selfishly, we're also interested in understanding what those things are. But this is a big part of what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
And where can people listen?
So we are on Spotify and YouTube. If you go to our Instagram handle at you'vegotthis.ae, you can find our link to the podcast. You can find a link to resources on our website, free resources. And we encourage listeners to comment. You know, comment and reach out to us, because we also want to know what you guys want to listen to. And, you know, in terms of issues, do you want more strategies, simple strategies like the validating of thoughts? You know, what else can we talk about? Right. So, yeah.
Kat and Yvonne, thank you so much for your time this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That brings us to the end of the Lovin Dubai show. We'll see you back here tomorrow morning, same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Wow. Oh my God.